Hello good gamers, today I'm going to show you the NLOFIN NLHX-ET01 and I'm sure you won't mind, but for the rest of this video I'm just going to call it the NLOFIN. This is an all button arcade controller slash stick slash leverless, whatever you want to call it is fine. If you're new to the channel, well, this is a controller designed primarily for fighting games. A leverless replaces the lever on the directional hand for buttons. People prefer this for various reasons, including input accuracy and overall hand health. So let's talk about that build first. The NLOFIN has an all aluminium, half opaque, half transparent body. The top case is opaque with a light shimmering across the surface. I think the white looks clean, but it also comes in black, silver and yellow colorways. You can see there are gentle lines and curves on and around the face and edges that add a three-dimensionality to the tastefully minimal aesthetic. The bottom casing is supposedly aluminium too, so I had to look this up and it turns out that transparent aluminium does exist, which is a cool discovery for me actually. The finish is smoky on the back but clear on the sides and edges, both of which are helpful for showing off the ambient RGB. Finally, all corners and edges are chamfered, and along with this groove on the side help to make it easier to get a grip on this surprisingly heavy controller. It might not look it, but this is a hefty boy at 1.2 kilograms. It's 11 by 7.5 inches and half an inch thick. These dimensions are the kind that I like. The NLOFIN runs on the GP2040 software. If you're familiar with the popular Hot 42 series of controllers, you'll already know what this means. It provides a lot of freedom for pin mapping, it has RGB compatibility, SOCD cleaning for tournament settings, and it has OLED functions. You can check out the official website for the full compatibility list, but the main ones to note are PC, Mac, Switch, Steam Deck, and with some additional steps, the PS4. If you want to use this on a Series X or PS5 like I do, pick up an authenticator device like the Booter 5 or Brook Wingman and plug it directly into the controller via the EXT port. So what are the key features that set this controller apart from other choices on the market? Well, other than the gorgeous body, this controller uses PBT keycaps. This is a great choice if you like a matte finish sensation and they're less prone to greasy prints. I like that these buttons sit low, it makes them very easy to slide, and you can probably go further and put lower travel switches on these to enhance that even more. For my hands, the spacing is excellent. One of my favorite spacings is on the Hot 42 S series, and the one here is slightly closer together. It doesn't feel cramped though, because the large body allows you to angle your hands out for a relaxed positioning. The function roll is quite good. These are big rubbery buttons, so they do feel mushy if you push on them too slowly. I think they perform and feel best when you strike them hard. Out of the box, they were incorrectly mapped on my unit, so I had to go into the web configurator and set all of the pins manually. This is also a good opportunity to change the turbo button into a touchpad button, which is much more useful in my opinion. Around the frame of the body, we have two USB-C sockets, the EXT port, and an RGB switch for the base LEDs. Now I do have some nitpicks with this controller. The first is that my screen came slightly wonky. This doesn't affect functionality, but if you have a bit of OCD like myself, you might have to open this up and adjust it a bit. Along with the jumbled up pin mapping I mentioned on the function row, it seems that the controller does require some configuration before you can truly go forth and run your sets. Not a terrible thing, because this would force you to get familiar with the GP2040 software. The second thing that bothers me is the positioning of the RGB lights. They are on the east and west sides, so from certain angles I get the full force of the blinding lights shooting into my eyeballs. Your mileage may vary with this, since you won't spend that much time looking down during gameplay, and if you really dislike it, just turn the lights off. I think they positioned it like this to give the controller extended compatibility with switch types, which is a great feature. Finally, authentication dongles protrude a little too much. This won't be a big issue if you have a smaller footprint one like the Booter 5, and the port works just fine. Again, this is just a nitpick that tickles my aesthetic sensibilities. The NLOFIN comes with black keycaps as standard. I'm not sure if and when the colored caps will be available, but I wanted to emulate what they did on their product page, and they were kind enough to send a set over to me. If you'd like to source your own, the smaller ones are 23mm and the jump button is 25mm. I'm not usually a fan of red switches, but they feel quite good on this controller, so I wouldn't mind leaving them intact. But I'm curious about how this controller pairs with the low-free wizards. These are clicky switches, so they should sound and feel quite fun. If you want to use this on your PS5, go into input mode settings and choose host USB. And then in the peripheral mapping, click the USB 0 toggle and set D+ to 26. After that, all you need is a dongle and you'll be set. The Doyo HitPad Pro would be appropriate for a comparison, but I don't have that controller, so instead we'll look at the Hot 42 M Ultra. The M Ultra also has an aluminium body, but instead of a fully transparent bottom casing, it has a strip around the edge for ambient lighting. The spacing is slightly more spread out, identical to the S series I showed you earlier, and very comfortable for my hands. In my opinion, the position of the R3 button here is better for people who jump with their right thumb, since it's within easy reach. On the NLOFIN, this button is higher, so it is good if you rest your thumb on the X button, or if you press it with the index finger. Alternatively, this button is in perfect reach for left thumb jumpers. The function row on the Ultra is clicky, where the NLOFIN has the quiet rubbery buttons, and it has a tournament lock that disables the whole row when necessary. The dense build of the Ultra makes it sound deeper and thockier, which is my preference. If you like a hollow, higher pitched sound, the NLOFIN does better in that regard. The M Ultra is cheaper than the NLOFIN if you have access to AliExpress, and this is my favorite controller to use right now. If you want to find out more, check out the full review on my channel. Overall, this is a good first entry for NLOFIN, and I hope the quality issue I have on my screen is a rare case. If you don't like hollow sounding controllers, there's not much you can do to mitigate that, but you can experiment with different switches to alter the sound slightly. So who is this controller for? First of all, you should already know by now if you like the aesthetics. I personally think it looks minimal and clean, and if you enjoy that kind of look too, this ticks that box nicely. The PBT keycaps feel lovely, and the controller is excellent for Zangief players and Tekken sliders because of the low height on the button caps. If you have smaller hands, I think you'll appreciate the relaxed spacing and comfortable dimensions of the body. The dimensions and weight of the build makes it suitable for both lap and desktop play. Thanks for joining me for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you're interested in this controller, you can find the link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're still on the fence, pick a number between 1 and 16 and see what happens on my spinner. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you in the next one.